Greg Stoker just announced that he is going to run for Congress in Texas, a veteran who became disillusioned with the U.S. military after being involved as a war criminal in the U.S. Army Special Operations Command. He calls himself an anti-imperialist and has been an outspoken critic of the Gaza Holocaust, Israel, and the United States war machine. He was on the Freedom Flotilla that sailed to Gaza to provide aid to the Palestinians. Now, I am not psyched about him trying to run for Congress in Texas. It seems insane to me, frankly. Unless he's doing some 5D chess that we mere mortals cannot comprehend, I don't think this guy is operating under a set of real leftist principles. Who goes on 4 separate tours murdering Afghans and makes it a central aspect of his marketable personality? Much like Mamdani, Platner, AOC, and Sanders, he is doing work for the liberal fascist war machine by running for public office within the imperial core. His campaign is running on a veterans first platform, seeking to improve the conditions and treatment for those who have served our country. Give me a break. His campaign will be another act of American exceptionalist arrogance. He has a massive social media platform, and his plan is to become entrenched in the electoral system of the global empire inside the imperial core. What are you thinking? This will take any grievances his audience has and shepherd it into the Democratic Party. I guarantee it. On some level, I think this guy might actually be CIA. If not through a paycheck, then effectively through his activist and political activity. But let's consider this a suspicion for now. He was in the military, was in the special forces, was an Army Ranger, and gained widespread online renown through his critiques of the system. He is at best part of the compatible left, the term left doing a whole lot of heavy lifting there. The compatible left refers to a group of intellectuals and figures often described as leftists by Western media who are actually anti-communist, pro-imperialist, and critical of revolutionary movements, sometimes promoted by capitalist states like the CIA during the Cold War, to counter genuine radicalism by offering a palatable, non-threatening version of left-wing thought within the existing system. This concept highlights a split in the left, separating those who accept imperialism and capitalism's core structures, the compatible ones, from those who seek fundamental systemic change, often focusing on Marxist critiques of imperialism and capitalism, like Gabriel Rockhill's work on the imperial theory industry. He may look and sound like an anti-imperialist leftist, but his anarchism is a dead ringer for a lack of true materialist understanding. Some people have made the argument that he's doing what Lenin would have leftists do, by participating in bourgeois capitalist elections to somehow convince the populace that it doesn't work and that they need to find alternative power in a vanguard party to which this candidate would represent on some level. This is not what Greg is doing, however. It is doubtful that a 4-time war criminal turned National Socialist / anarcho-Americanist would somehow be working in secret with a Marxist-Leninist vanguard party to spread real class consciousness to the masses by running on a campaign of veterans first in Texas of all places. These people are misunderstanding both what Greg is trying to do and what Lenin was prescribing for the working class to do. Lenin was not advocating for participation in bourgeois elections by funneling energy into the Democratic Party and changing the system from within. This is Trotskyite entryism with a good dose of imperialist leftism thrown in. He's enriching himself through participating in a bourgeois election for a position within the upper echelon of the Euro-American settler population. He's doing this for clout, fame, riches, and influence among the white Texan proletariat, quote-unquote, in particular. There is no Bolshevik-like presence in the counter-revolutionary bourgeois parliament of the U.S. Congress, and Greg Stoker will not manifest this presence in any material form. While Lenin says that Soviet and Bolshevik presence in counter-revolutionary parliaments is not necessarily a hindrance, it also must prepare its members to build dual power far from the centers of bourgeois dictatorship. They must be professional revolutionaries, rather than opportunists who exploit the provisions of American imperialist dominance, which filters through the bourgeois political system. There is no vanguard party. There is no highly professional revolutionary group that will lead the American settlers to suddenly give up their imperialist treats in favor of decolonizing and giving land back to the people who are native to the lands we call America. This participation in bourgeois elections is only viable if the party is labor first, not another bourgeois capitalist party such as the Democratic or Republican Party. And we are far past the point where needing to somehow win the hearts of settler imperialist masses is a good case for nudging the window of acceptable speech towards the left in America. He has tried to place the Ukraine conflict in a sort of gray area, where he makes a token acknowledgement of criticizing Russia's military actions, but still points to the manufacturing of consent for the proxy war against Russia in Ukraine. This is an example of his compatible left beliefs. He doesn't want to leave out these moments of saying what liberals want him to say by validating their concerns over big bad Russia, when in reality it is entirely the West's responsibility that Russia was forced into this position, to take a stand against actual imperialism against NATO and the US and other Nazi countries. There does not need to be this token acknowledgement of harming Ukraine in some way. They are Nazis. There's no point in condemning violence against Nazis unless you are a Nazi. This, in combination with his veterans' focus in his campaign, tells us that this is a call for National Socialism, to make the working class, quote unquote, of the West see his points, to see his condemnations of the US military-industrial complex and how this money can better be spent on improving the lives of Americans, veterans, mass murderers, and child rapists. The compatible left becomes more of a smokescreen the longer we poke and prod at it. In its more radical form, it maintains the veneer of anti-Americanism, but in reality, it still seeks to further enrich those who have gained by joining the military, by murdering brown people for the sake of white egos and imperialist super profits, for American nationalism and chauvinism. This is why the comparison to Graham Plattner is so apt. Taking this veteran persona and using it as a marketing tool is only useful if your goal is to appeal to those who feel like they defended their country against Islamic terrorists or Asiatic hordes, etc. He wants to improve the living conditions of his and his own veterans, murderers, and white Euro-American proletariat. His image is so perfect. He's exactly what 90% of compatible leftists want to see. The way we understand and can identify a compatible leftist is changing right before our very eyes. Now, someone who calls themselves an anti-imperialist can be enriched with widespread online fame and clout and pivot into mainstream American domestic politics to further their own career. If he gets any votes, it will be from people who have fallen for the grift. The liberal/imperial left could go absolutely bananas over him, and he could very well lose yet still retain the benefits of garnered fame through this political stunt. Ultimately, what he is advocating for is a kind of National Socialism. It is fascism using the rhetoric of anti-imperialism by seeking a redistribution of imperialist superprofits to the benefit of the wider base of Americans. It resonates so clearly with the average left liberal because it doesn't seek to form a vanguard party. It doesn't seek to dismantle capitalism. It doesn't seek the dismantling of American empire in its totality. The radical white settler within the imperial core cannot have strategic alliances with the oppressed peoples of the US. They are in antagonistic contradiction to one another. To those who care about current American livelihood, just stop. The only way conditions will improve for the oppressed peoples in America is if it is no longer the United States. The empire must crumble, must balkanize, and reshape its government through a proletarian dictatorship and an encirclement of the bourgeois elements of society. It must seek the crushing of American war veterans and their chauvinism for the old manifest destiny empire. This conversation of bringing true Marxist revolution to the Euro-Americans must happen in this context. The only way for a revolutionary moment to have the potential to appear is for the American empire to officially break apart into separate warring states. There is no reformist option. Greg Stoker will not be the herald of a coming age of greater class consciousness in the radical settler population. Thank you. If you like what I do, you can subscribe to the Joseph's Marxist Analysis newsletter on Substack. I'm also on Instagram, Marxist Analysis newsletter. I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm on Patreon as well. You'll find all those links in the description. Thank you very much. Goodbye.